Hi everyone. Today's topic is on foundation, and today's content is types of foundation and shallow foundation. Before going to today's topic, we'll just briefly recap the last class sessions. What and all we discussed in the last class. So first thing we learned about the foundation. What is foundation? Why it requires? What is superstructure? What is substructure? When it's called as a substructure, when it's called as a superstructure, what is the criteria for that? Okay, so if the structure is constructed below the ground level, then it's called as a substructure. When the structure is constructed above the ground level, then it's called as a superstructure. Then what are the necessities and what should be the safe bearing capacity of a soil, and what should be the criteria for choosing the foundation? We learned all those. And in the types of foundation, we learned about shallow foundation and deep foundation. So based on the depth, so we divided the foundation into two types, and shallow and deep foundation. And we also studied some major difference of shallow foundation and deep foundation. Next, we'll move on to this today's topic, that is types of foundation. So in types of foundation, also last class we have discussed based on the depth. We have classified the foundation into two types, that is shallow foundation and deep foundation. Okay, what is shallow foundation? As I said in the earlier classes, if the depth is equal to or less than its width. See, you can see in here, it's a symbological representation shows depth is equal to or less than the width. Okay, then it's called as a shallow foundation. And where foundation is placed immediately below the superstructure, right? Means below the ground level. Okay. Main objective of selecting the shallow foundation. What it does, so it's usually preferred for the normal residential buildings and where the soil is firm and where it has a good bearing capacity. So we'll choose the shallow foundation. Main objective of the shallow foundation is to distribute the load over a large area in a shallow depths. Okay, so the shallow foundation is further classified into four different types. Okay, so first one is spread footing, second one is combined footing, third one is strap or cantilever footing, fourth one is mat or raft foundation. All these four types will take one type and discuss them separately, what it is and where it is used. Okay, then we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, in shallow footing, the first division is spread footing. Okay, what is spread footing? It is a common type of foundation used for a ordinary building or alluvial soil. What's its main purpose? So it will distribute the load to a ground level uniformly. So in the spread footing, we can use columns or a wall, okay, as a footing. Again, the spread footing is further classified into a three types based on its structures. First one is a wall footing, second one is column or pad footing, third one is inverted arch footing. So all these three types of spread footing, so we'll discuss one by one detailedly or briefly we'll discuss. So we'll move on to the next slide. Okay. So in spread footing, first type is wall footing. So what is wall footing? Wall can be either can be simple or step. Okay. Based on the load carrying criteria, whether we are considering a very light load or heavy load. Based on that, we'll decide the whether the footing should be simple or stepped. Okay, if we are see, this is the simple wall footing, so it doesn't have any steps, right? So this kind of a footing is selected when the load is very less, soil is firm, and SBC of soil is good. What is SBC? Safe bearing capacity is good. So that time we'll choose this simple foot. And in this wall footing only, so this based on this foot level of this offset steps. Okay, so we'll decide. So in this stepped footing, see, we can see this offsets of steps. Okay, these offsets of steps may be given from 5 centimeters to 15 centimeters based on the design criteria. So these types of a footing, stepped footing is taken into consider are designed when the load carrying or load requirement is more on a building. Okay, so this picture it shows on-site excavation for the wall footing. So the 3D picture of the wall footing looks like this. So here the PCC bed has a small amount of reinforcement, then a brick wall is erected in the concrete bed. Okay, so you understood about wall footing. Wall footing is a simple or stepped. So this is either it can be simple or stepped. It based on the load carrying capacity. If whether it has to carry the small load or heavy amount of loads, based on that we'll decide whether to choose the simple one or the stepped footing. Okay, we'll move on to the next type. That is second one is column footing or pad foundation. So what is column? I think everyone has seen the column. In column andre ನೋಡಿದೀರಾ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಜನ ಸೈಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾರೆ ಯಾವಾಗಾದ್ರೂ ಕಾಲಮ್ ಯಾವ ತರ ಕಾಣಿಸುತ್ತೆ, ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿರ್ತೀರಾ. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲಮ್ ಫುಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆರ್ ಅದನ್ನ ವಿ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ವಿಲ್ ಕಾಲ್ ದ ಕಾಲಮ್ ಫುಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಸ್ ಪ್ಯಾಡ್ ಫೌಂಡೇಶನ್ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಕಾಲಮ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಈಚ್ ಒಂದು ಸೈಟ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಈಚ್ ಸೈಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಕಾಲಮ್ಸ್ ಬೇಕೋ ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ ಆಗಿ ವಿಲ್ ಮಾರ್ಕ್ ದಟ್ ಕಾಲಮ್. ರೆಕ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಗ್ಯುಲರ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಸ್ಕ್ವಯರ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಆ ತರ ಮಾರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಕವೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ವಿಲ್ ರೈಸ್ ದಮ್ ಆಸ್ ಎ ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ ಕಾಲಮ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಫುಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ ಬರೋ ಪೋರ್ಷನ್ ನ ವಿಲ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಕಾಲಮ್. ಓಕೆ, ಇಫ್ ಇಯರ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಆಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ವಾಲ್ ಫುಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್, ಇವನ್ ಕಾಲಮ್ ಫುಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಲೈಕ್ ಅದು ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ಡ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಆಸ್ ಐ ಸೈಡ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಅರ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್, the projections of a column can be from 5 centimeter to 15 centimeter. Those are also called as offsets. Okay, so whether it can be 4 sides rectangular layer ಆಗಾದ್ರೂ ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ನಾನು ಸರ್ಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಆಗಾದ್ರೂ ನಾನು ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ನ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಇದು ಕಾಲಮ್ ಫುಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಯೂಶುವಲಿ ದೇ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ಐದರ್ stepped, sloped. Again, in the shape, when it comes to shape, it can be circular, square or rectangular in plan. Plan andre when we see the object from the top, aduna ನಾವು plan ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. Okay, now we will see the pictorial representation of a column footing. So this is how the column footing looks like. See, this is here I have showed a simple column footing only, squares simple column footing. Illi circular footing ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. Again here square footing with a ped means stepped, one step ನಾನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೇಮ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಕ್ವಯರ್ ಫುಟಿಂಗ್ ಗೆ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡೆಡ್ ಎ ಸ್ಲೋಪ್ಸ್. ಅಂದ್ರೆ these are the different criterias. Like on what basis I'll decide? Based on the load carrying capacity by a building. ಎಷ್ಟು ಲೋಡ್ ಅದು ತಗೋಬೇಕೋ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ ನಾನು ಈ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ನ, ಈ 4 ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಒಂದ ನಾನು ಚೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಕಮ್ ಟು ದಿಸ್ ಸೈಡ್. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸಿ ದಿ 3D ಡ್ರಾಯಿಂಗ್, ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಸೊ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಸೊ ನೋಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಎ ಮ್ಯಾಟ್, ರೈಟ್? ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಓವರ್ಲ್ಯಾಪಿಂಗ್. ಸೊ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, ಹಾರಿಜಾಂಟಲ್ ಆಗಿ ರನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಅದ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ವರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಆಗಿ ರನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಲುಕ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಎ ಮ್ಯಾಟ್. ಸೊ ಮ್ಯಾಟ್ ರೈನ್ಫೋರ್ಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ಸೊ ಇದನ್ನ ಮ್ಯಾಟ್ ತರ ರೈನ್ಫೋರ್ಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು, ಸೊ ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲಾನು ಕನೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಬೈ hooks ಇಂದ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಅಗೇನ್ ದ ಕಾಲಮ್ಸ್ ಬಾರ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಎರೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದಿ ಮ್ಯಾಟ್. ರಿಇನ್ಫೋರ್ಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೆಳಗಡೆಯಿಂದ ಎರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು, ಸೊ ಎವ್ರಿವೇರ್ ಟು ಹೋಲ್ಡ್ ದಟ್ ಕಾಲಮ್ ಇನ್ ಎ ಒನ್ ಪೊಸಿಷನ್, ಒನ್ ಫ್ರಿಮ್ ಆಗಿ ಈ ತರ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳಕ್ಕೆ. ಸೊ ನಾನು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದೀನಿ, ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಎ ಕಾಲಮ್, ಸೊ 4 ಡೈರೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇತ್ತಂದ್ರೆ ಇದನ್ನ ಫ್ರಿಮ್ ಆಗಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದೀನಿ, ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಗಿವೆನ್ ದಿಸ್ stirrups. Okay, so this and all you will learn in RCC actually, adralli ella ನೀವು ಡೀಟೇಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಓದ್ತೀರಾ. So it's just a rough idea. Okay, this is how the 3D picture look like. Okay, this is simple square footing, 3D image of a simple square footing. Okay, next we'll move on to the next slide, that is inverted arch footing. Okay, in this footing, uh, actually this is used where the bearing capacity of soil is very poor. Again, the load carrying of a structure is very high and concentrated, so only I can't use the deep excavation is also not possible. So aವಾಗ ನಾನು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, the soil nature is also not very good, and even ನನಗೆ I have to go for the deep excavations. So that criteria, what I'll do, I'll choose a ಇನ್ವರ್ಟೆಡ್ ಆರ್ಚ್ ಫುಟಿಂಗ್. ಸೊ ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಇನ್ವರ್ಟೆಡ್ ಆರ್ಚ್ ಫುಟಿಂಗ್ ನ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊತೀನಿ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಎ ರೋ ಆಫ್ ಪಿಯರ್ಸ್. ಇದು ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇಟ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಎ ರೋ ಆಫ್ ಪಿಯರ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, see you can see 1 2 3 numbers of piers, it's in a row continuously. Again, it's a invertedly I am supporting, see you can see in the 3D picture also. So inverted arch, it's made of a brick. So where it is used is, it's usually used in bricks, reservoirs, again for drainages, supporting pipeline also. As a pipeline also we can use. Actually, usually we used to use this in the older days. Nowadays, like very limited usage of this inverted arch footing is happening. Okay, I think by this you understood what is inverted arch footing. Okay, what is inverted arch footing? It's when the soil has a low bearing capacity, and when there is a deep excavation has to be carried out. Deep excavation has to be carried out, but a deep excavation is not possible. That time we'll go for a inverted arch footings. Okay, next we'll move on to, okay, inverted arch footing. So, what is inverted arch? The name itself indicates inverted means it's reflection, means ulta alva. Arch shape ulta agidre, that is inverted arch. So that's why it's called a inverted arch footing. So in this type of footing, ನಾವು ಯಾವಾಗ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋತೀವಿ ಈ ತರ ಫುಟಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, when the safe bearing capacity or bearing capacity of soil is very poor, and the load, upcoming load on the structure is more. Okay, so again, that condition will go for a inverted footing. And one more thing, when deep excavation is not possible, I can go for a deep foundation, but it's not possible in that particular area. So that time what I'll do, I'll choose a inverted arch footing. So again, it consists of a row of piers, 1 2 3. So you can see row of piers, okay, with a inverted arch. Okay, so you can see the 3D picture of inverted arch also over here. So usually this kind of a structures are used to construct bridges, reservoirs, again to support drainage pipelines. Okay, so I think you have understood the inverted arch footing. Okay, when will you use that? When the depth of excavation is limited and it has to carry the heavy loads, that time we'll go for a inverted arch footing. Actually nowadays it's not used that much. Actually we have some other types of foundation available actually, so it's very limitedly used nowadays. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, see, this is the pictorial representation of a inverted arch foundation. So this is how it looks in real site. And you can see the 3D picture of it. Inverted arch footing. Okay. Next, we'll move on to the next slide. So in that, second one is combined footing. Okay, in the shallow foundation, second main type is combined footing. So combined means when two things are combined, then it's called combined. So why it's called combined, we'll see why we are calling this as a combined footing. Okay, in combined footing, uh, there are main two types, that is one is rectangular, one more is trapezoidal. So usually when these cases arises, see in the picture you can see two columns are combined by a same footing. So that's why it's called as a combined footing. When the column is near to the individual footing or it's overlapping. So avaga we'll call it as that as a ಕಂಬೈನ್ಡ್ ಫುಟಿಂಗ್. ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನೀವೆರಡು ಕಾಲಮ್ ಹಾಕಿರ್ತೀರಾ ಸೈಟಿನ ಪ್ರಕಾರ, ಬಟ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಆ ಪಿಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಕವೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ದೇ ವಿಲ್ ಕಮ್ ವೆರಿ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಟು ಈಚ್ ಅದರ್. ಸೊ ಎರಡು ಪಿಟ್ಟು ವೆರಿ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಟು ಈಚ್ ಅದರ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ವಾಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಡೂ, ವಿಲ್ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಎ ಕಾಮನ್ ಫುಟಿಂಗ್. ಎರಡಕ್ಕೂ ಸೇರ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕಂಬೈನ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿ ಕಾಮನ್ ಫುಟಿಂಗ್ ನ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಟ್ ನಾವ್ ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಂಬೈನ್ಡ್ ಫುಟಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. Okay, again this can also be provided in other reasons, provided due to other reason. When the bearing capacity of soil is less, again area under a individual footing is more. Okay, it needs more area for individual footing ಗೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಏರಿಯಾ ಬೇಕಾದಾಗ ಒಂದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಓವರ್ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಂಗೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಸೊ ಏರಿಯಾ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ಡ್. ಇಷ್ಟು ಏರಿಯಾ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದು ವೆನ್ ಐ ಓವರ್ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ ಇಟ್ ದ ಏರಿಯಾ ಇಸ್ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ಡ್, ರೈಟ್? ಸೊ because of that also we can use the combined footing. Again, when the end column means the last column is located near to the property site. So imagine if it's this is a property site. So if the column is located here, so yeah, and one more column is here, so you'll combine both the columns and you provide this type of footing. So if that type of footing is provided, that is called as trapezoidal footing. Okay, usually for the property line issues, this trapezoidal combined footing is usually preferred. Okay, I think you understood what is combined footing. So combined means when two columns are combined together due to bearing capacity issues or property line issues, then it's called as a combined footing. There are two major types, one is rectangular, one more is trapezoidal combined footing. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. See, this is the pictorial representation of a combined footing. See, you can see one column is erected and other one more column is erected, and here the concreting is happening. See, as I said, the mat has been fixed and this is one step is only provided. Here also they have provided only one step. Okay, and with a small projection, and they will do the concrete. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. Next, the third major type of shallow foundation is raft foundation. See, this is raft foundation is usually a thick slab resting on a large area, okay, of a soil. Okay, it's reinforced with the steel. Again, it will provided with the columns, walls to transfer the load from the structure to the soil level or to the foundation level. Okay, when this type of a raft foundation is preferred, when there is a differential settlement. Okay, so that time it's used when the load carrying of a structure is more, upcoming load is more, then this kind of a raft foundation is preferred. And when the soil strata is unpredictable, means the soil is if we select, ನಾನು ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಒಂದು ಏರಿಯಾ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವೆದರ್ ಕ್ಲೇ ಸಾಯಿಲ್ ಇದೆನೋ, ಸ್ಯಾಂಡಿ ಸಾಯಿಲ್ ಇದೆನೋ, ಅಥವಾ ಲೈಕ್ ಅಲ್ಯೂವಿಲಿಯಲ್ ಸಾಯಿಲ್ ಇದೆನೋ. ಸೊ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಾಯಿಲ್. ಸೊ ನಾನು ಆ ಸಾಯಿಲ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟಾ ಐ ಆಮ್ ನಾಟ್ ಏಬಲ್ ಟು ಪ್ರೆಡಿಕ್ಟ್. ಲೈಕ್ ಸರ್ಟನ್ ಪೋರ್ಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಸೈಟ್ it has some clay soil, other certain of the portion it has sandy soil. So there is many fluctuation. That time what I'll do, I'll go for a raft foundation. So it will be like a complete mat. So that's why the raft foundation, it's also called as a mat foundation. Means the is mat is spread along around this site. It look like a mat is spread around the excavated site. That's why it's also called as a raft foundation. Again, when the soil is soft and marshy, that time also we'll prefer this raft foundation. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide. So you can see the pictorial representation of a raft foundation. See, this is how it looks. See, many columns are there. One, two, three columns are there. This is raft. Everything is combined of all the three columns and it given a raft foundation with a. This see all these dots are represent the steel reinforcement. Even this lines, even these dots also represent the beams are reinforcement, steel reinforcement is mentioned. See, this is the 3D picture, the colorful picture. You can see the matter raft foundation. See, there are number of columns are erected, and for throughout the, see, you can see the see in this picture, they have excavated this entire area. So entire area is spread with the steel reinforcement, correct? No, that's why it's like a mat, right? So entire area that steel is covered. That's why it's also called as a mat foundation. Okay. Okay. Sorry, before moving to this MCQ questions, I would like to share some videos to you for a better understanding. Okay. Okay. Just go through this video and see what's happening over there.
An important part of all structures used to transfer the loads of the building on a firm soil deep down in the ground. The movement or settlement of foundation results in cracks in the building. The layout of the foundation is to be correctly marked on the ground before taking up the excavation. The excavation shall be done true to levels, slope, shape, and pattern. The bed of excavation in foundation pits and trenches shall be of the correct level and consolidated by watering and ramming. Any excavation done to an extra depth should be filled with lean concrete consisting of 1 part of cement, 4 parts of sand, and 8 parts of stone aggregates in all types of soils. Soft and defective spots on the bed of the foundation shall be dug out and filled with concrete. The excavation should be taken to a minimum depth of 1 to 1.2 meters in ordinary soils for 2 to 3 storied buildings. It shall preferably be taken down to a firm soil and below the layer affected by water penetration. The excavated material must be deposited away from the pit to prevent collapsing of edges. For deep foundations, the excavation should be braced with tight shoring to prevent collapsing of sides. Care should be taken while excavating.
Okay, guys, I think you have seen that video, how the excavation was done and what are the precautions to be taken. And they said how the deep foundation has been done. It should be given some shuttering for the proper deep means ತುಂಬಾ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಡೆಪ್ತ್ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ವಾ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ ಶಟರಿಂಗ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ ರೀಫ್ ಫಿಲ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಾಯಿಲ್ ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು. ಸೊ ಆ ತರ ಪ್ರಿಕಾಷನ್ಸ್ ಏನೇನ್ ತಗೋಬೇಕು ಇವನ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಿ ಶಾಲೋ ಫೌಂಡೇಶನ್. So individual columns na ಎಲ್ಲ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು so how they presented. So you have seen, I think you got a rough idea regarding that. Okay. Okay, next we'll move on to the next part of this slide. Okay. Okay, here some interesting thing for you guys. It's some MCQ questions or assessment level of questions for you. Okay. First question, I'll just ask and I'll give you options. You just try to answer for the questions. Okay. First question. Which of the following can't be classified as a deep foundation system? Your options. A. Piles. B. Cautions. C. Anchor. D. Mat. Okay, I think you guessed the right answer. The answer is option D, that is mat foundation. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Okay, you have to see the picture and say what it is. Okay, the picture below represents. See this picture. I'll give you the options. Option A, isolated footing. Option B, wall footing. Option C, strap footing. Option D, mat foundation. Okay, the answer is option B, wall footing. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Okay, third one. Dash footing is used in load bearing masonry construction. Option A, isolated. Option B, strap. Option C, strip. Option D, pile. Okay, the answer is strip footing. So actually it runs as a continuous footing and it will take the whole load and it's like a below the wall level. Okay. So answer is strip footing. Okay. Fourth question. How many types of combined footings are possible? Your options are option A, 2, option B, 3, option C, 4, option D, 5. The answer is option A, means two combined footings are possible. So I said two columns can be combined together, right? So the answer is A, that is two numbers. We'll move on to the next question. A common footing provided for two or more columns is known as option A, continuous footing, option B, combined footing, option C, cantilever footing, option D, eccentric footing. Okay, the answer is option B, that is combined footing. Okay, so I said when two or more columns are combined together, then it's called as a combined footing. Okay, last question. Sixth one, dash method of increasing the bearing power of soil becomes very useful when the load coming on the soil is partially uniform. Okay, for this criteria, you have to see which foundation is suitable. Okay, option A, raft foundation. Option B, grillage foundation. Option C, mat foundation. Option D, inverted arch foundation. Guess the answers. Okay, for the sixth question, the answer is option A, that is raft foundation. I said the raft means it's also called as a mat foundation. The reinforcement is spread throughout the area. Okay, that's why it's also called as a mat foundation. Okay. Okay. Thank you for listening to this video. I think it. I hope the video was helpful. And before going to ending this session, I would like to play one more video. Uh,
Before constructing the footing, ram the base of the footing trench adequately. A concrete bed of 150 mm thick in 1:4:8 mix is laid over the rammed earthen base. This bed provides a leveled surface for the footing. The reinforcement cage is lowered onto the concrete bed and vertical bars of the column are placed in correct position and tied to the footing reinforcement mat. The sides of the trench have to be splashed with cement mortar. Necessary shuttering is to be provided depending on the type of the footing. The bed shall be cleaned of all the foreign material and wetted before pouring the concrete. Concrete shall be compacted using mechanical vibrator. In sloped footings, which consume relatively less concrete, the slopes start at the face of the column and joins at the edge of the pedestal. The sloped portion is supported by flat bottom pedestal, which assumes a trapezoidal shape at the column junction. The concrete placed in the sloped portion shall be relatively stiffer so that it does not slide down along the slope. Care should be taken to compact the concrete well in the sloped portion. Steep sloped footings may require top form to hold the concrete in place. Stepped footing contains 2 or 3 rectangular or square pedestals whose width decreases towards the column junction. Shuttering has to be made to hold the concrete in the successive steps as shown. This type of footing consumes less concrete compared to block footing. Block footing, as the name suggests, is in the form of a block which is easy to construct and consumes slightly more concrete. The concrete would be denser in block and stepped footings in comparison to sloped footings. Check the excavation.
okay, thank you, everyone. I think you liked the video. In video, they were saying about how column footing is done, whether it's a simple or a stepped or a slope, and what are the precautions to be taken while excavating the trenches, how the trenches should be maintained, how the shuttering should be done for the trenches. So we have seen a video, and for the further video you can go for YouTube and see some other inverted arch footing and other types of combined footing, etc. Thank you.